Welcome to Popcast Deluxe, your Lil Big Poc of weekly cultural review. I'm John Caramanica, a critic at the New York Times.
I'm Joe Coscarelli. I'm a reporter at the New York Times.
Joe, is it over? Is it over? Can I sleep? Can I rest finally?
You can rest. Drake can't rest because Not Like Us is going to be playing all summer long.
All summer long.
Unfortunately for that man.
Yes. I feel like my main takeaway from the last few days, obviously both sides of the Drake-Kendrick kerfuffle have indicated that, at least for now, everybody's standing down.
Yeah.
Seems that, obviously there's information trickling out. We'll get to some of the side narratives in a minute. But generally speaking, important figures on both sides of this have said, great for the culture.
You're talking about Top from TDE and DJ Academics from OVO.
Yes.
Formerly. He seems to have switched sides. I mean, that nobody switches sides more than DJ Academics.
I mean, he's on stream. He's on stream
Right.
24 hours a day.
Yeah,
it's hard to be.
It's
hard
true.
to be
It's
loyal.
like when you think of newscasters. It's like sometimes they make a flub, but like they're on all day.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
a lot of
You gotta
a lot of air
people,
to fill.
Give them grace.
Yeah.
We're giving all our Twitch streamers, all our streamers grace.
Yes.
But yes, people from both sides have indicated it's done, it's over. And frankly, if people from both sides had not said that openly, the thing to me that would say that without saying that is the fact that Not Like Us is, as we speak, the #1 song in the country.
Yeah, and by a large margin,
Yes.
with less than a full tracking week because it was released on a Saturday.
Was it? Yeah, it was a Saturday, right?
Do you remember way back? way back.
I was never that young.
Euphoria is number 3.
Mm-hmm.
2 Drake disses in the top 5. Family Matters.
Yeah, there's a song referring to Drake, the most popular rapper on earth, as a pedophile in the #1 slot on the Billboard Hot 100. Yeah, just
when you put it like that.
No, I know. Well, I was rereading the lyrics on the way in.
Right.
And thinking about how frequently that song is being played, whether it's at nightclubs, on the radio, being streamed online, and thinking about how a pop hit works, which is it needs the sentiment into you as you listen to it 1 time, 3 times, 5 times, 10 times. That is the sentiment that is being needed into the country.
Or even worse, which is that you forget, you hear the song so often that you forget what it's about.
Right, it's so casual.
And then it's just washing over you. Like, I assume by this week, that song, and people are humming along, like, that song is now reaching people who have no idea.
That's true.
That Kendrick and Drake even...
They just think it's a catchy Kendrick song.
Yeah. They're like this, whoever he's mad at, like that poor guy, wop, 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 wop.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I think in our bubble, we assume everybody is fully up to speed, but it's important to remember that thousands, millions,
have
billions.
Better things to do.
But yeah, those people are now just casually listening to the song on the radio and maybe even not thinking that hard about what it's about.
And I think one of the funny things about this moment where both sides seem to be standing down is that there's also this hint, like, but we're ready at any time.
Yes.
Like,
Kendrick's got 5 more
there's
songs.
5 more diss songs. He's just letting Not Like Us breathe. Drake, it's over, but it's not over. Like, Drake posted his samurai meme. He posted the clip from the TV show.
Yeah, what was that? I didn't know that show.
Yeah, that's an obscure.
Yeah.
That's a show.
Cut?
Yeah, that's a deep cut. That's a show you watch when
You're going through it.
I was gonna say when you've seen everything on streaming.
Oh,
like when you get off
Okay.
tour,
Right.
you just wanna sit in the dark and unwind a little
Fair.
bit.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, flipping through the Apple TV. You're like, okay,
Wow.
why not?
Okay, dark.
But he said summer vibes coming. Something.
Good times.
Good times.
This is, I made sure to screen grab this to share with everybody.
Yeah.
Good times. Summer vibes coming.
Yeah.
And
it's
he
like-
was he spotted in Turks today?
Drake was spotted in
yesterday?
Turks yesterday. You think Air Drake goes direct Toronto to Turks?
Where would it stop?
I don't know. Houston?
Yeah, no, why wouldn't? No, definitely.
Okay.
No, that's a clean flight.
So I think the thing is they both still have like a finger on the trigger, metaphorically, maybe just in case. But
with academics also saying that Drake is working on, I mean, who knows?
Who knows?
But
I
also,
think
like, disinformation has been such a key part of this.
That's the other thing. I think the main thing is that nobody else is ready for it to end because it has been amazing business for everyone. That's everyone from Universal Music,
yes,
owner of the labels that
both of these
individuals
are signed to
or licensed to.
Sure, sorry.
Maybe given their standing in the industry these days, but also all the way down to random posters. Anonymous moles, tweeters, the Watergate deep throat of Meet the Grams, just DJ Academics, who we mentioned, Joe Budden, when people are doing
Popcast Deluxe.
We're on our third segment.
Yeah, doing numbers.
Third?
Sure.
Nobody wants to let this go because it's extremely exciting.
But also,
there's so many little threads to pick at. Like,
yes,
we've already referred to this. I've already referred to this. It's QAnon. It's True Detective.
We see y'all paying attention.
Subreddit.
Also, for the record,
thank
we
you
see y'all pay attention
for all the shout outs to our framing.
Yes,
of
crucial framing
of pop music in 2024. But anybody can grab any one little thing and drive it into the ground. We're fact checking the fact checks of something that has yet to be fact checked. Like, there is no actual information, and yet we have people spending days upon days, theory upon theory, dissecting.
Yeah. And there's
things that honestly no longer. If they ever mattered, they certainly don't anymore.
And there's also new characters. I feel like on TikTok, there's always a new person who's like, I'm the expert. Now I'm the person who's like relaying the story.
Right.
And then there's another person the next day who's like, actually, I'm the person who's relaying all the story. The thing that I think we haven't talked about exactly in any of these conversations, but I think is worth at least nodding to, is what was happening in hip hop 12 months ago, 6 months ago.
I wish I could tell you.
Yeah, but we're in frankly, an uncharacteristically dry stretch. And it's not like the conversation that was happening last year about there's no rap records at the top of the charts. It's not that. There's plenty of interesting stuff happening in the middle ground and in the underground. Like, there's plenty of stuff happening. But the biggest players either were focused on touring or were in a bloat era of just putting out projects that maybe had one or two interesting songs and then just a lot of filler. There wasn't a lot of enthusiasm at the highest levels, I think. And so what's happened is everybody who's an A+, A, or A-, or B, a couple of y'all are B. Yeah, no, we're just gonna leave it there. We're just gonna leave it there.
You're all B's. Everybody's getting great inflation. Everybody's getting a B.
But everybody wants to play.
Yeah.
Everybody came to play. Everybody wants to play. It's given purpose.
Yes, Soulja Boy jumped in.
Soulja Boy, yeah. But it's given purpose to, I think, a generation of artists who maybe were starting to look in the mirror and say, I wonder what comes next.
Yeah. Oh, the game released a diss, a Rick Ross diss.
Yes, I saw that.
It's just like anybody. It's a free for all.
Yes.
And it's given a blueprint for how to get talked about, specifically in the shadow of this beef, if you can claim some relation to it.
You know what the real blueprint actually? Seriously? It's Cardi and Nicki. It's Megan.
Wow.
It's Megan and everybody. Like, that's like we haven't.
Remy Ma.
Yeah, but we haven't talked about this beef in the context of the female rap beef of the last 2 years, which actually, if we're being honest, has been the most vibrant quarreling happening in the genre. That's really where the action's been. The guys have mostly been getting along or trying to get along.
What we just didn't know is that they all secretly hated each other.
Yeah. So anyway, I just felt like we had to at least nod to the fact that all these people who were essentially inactive now have been invested with purpose.
As far as the fact checking goes,
yeah,
Do you think?
No.
Yeah, I mean, does it change anything? Does it change the shape of what happened specifically for Drake? Like, does it get better for Drake in this? Probably not. I will say a week gone by, like it's another week spent in our feeds, right? Doing a lot of scrolling. So I think things are amplified there, and I have to remind myself what I said earlier. Like a lot of people enjoying this record don't know the ins and outs of this beef and never will.
Yeah.
Online, I think the tripling down on Drake losing and how bad Drake lost, like I'd say it's a little worse for him than I thought a week ago.
In terms
today.
of like the overall,
in terms of like the ding to his to his character and his celebrity.
Yeah, that seems obvious.
Do you think it's gotten worse even? Because I mean, you said something last week. You were like, I don't think anything's happened to not make
I still
him the
think
guy.
he's number one.
He's still number one, but with some scuff marks.
Yeah. I feel that to the extent that there's a true ranking, and within that ranking, like you could be number 2 far away from number 1, or you can be number 2 pretty close to number 1. I think Kendrick has moved up the chart and is in the center, especially if he ends up...
He is the green arrow next to his name.
Like in Billboard terms, he is green arrow. And Drake is down arrow, but still, not number 1 sturdy, but number 1 losing spins, literally and metaphorically.
Yeah, and I sort of alluded to this. Family Matters landed at number 7 on the chart on this top 10 that's full of animosity.
Yes, but
and
totally
Teddy swims.
Teddy Swims healed the nation. Can Teddy Swims heal the nation?
We're going to find out.
Torn asunder.
But this is where I was going with this. I think...
And Benson Boone. I need a telethon with Teddy Swims and Benson Boone. It's on y'all. You got to...
bring us together.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think even if we could get the firmly reported fact check that says Drake planted XYZ information, Kendrick bid on it. In fact, the 5th line of the 3rd Kendrick diss was factually inaccurate. It's not getting better for Drake.
No, although I do think there are things that both of them said about the other that if they are deemed to be credible could potentially continue the destabilization that we've seen. These are the serious allegations, the quasi-criminal, certainly ethical allegations that each made about the other. That's, to me, it's been lightly frustrating to see that get lost a little bit in all the other stuff. I mean, we're now keeping an eye on a Twitter account of a person who appears to have had all of the things that ended up on the Meet the Grams. Our album artwork
that was teased on 616 in LA, and then you saw the zoom out.
So it's like we're following that person, and that person seems to have a particular agenda, and it's tough to read. But like those allegations that Drake makes about Kendrick and Kendrick makes about Drake, should there be any kind of verification? I mean, you're talking about fact checking about essentially the unimportant things, the quibbles. The big things, should there be some, shoe leather reporting and pick up the phone and check who the crisis management team that got hired and so on and so forth, that to me could potentially have real repercussions.
Yeah, so I guess where I was going is that I think it can, if things play out in a certain way, things can get incrementally better for Drake, who's still in the public sphere, I think has lost.
Yes.
Nobody is now arguing that he won.
In the public sphere of extremely online hip-hop fans and rap media.
And how that trickles up
of course it will trickle.
The mainstream.
Yes.
Could it get worse for Drake? That, I think, is...
outside of a more serious allegation. You're saying, like, tabling that stuff.
I'm saying figuring out where the stuff came from on the album cover, whether or not he has a daughter that we don't know about. Did he do some of the things Kendrick is seeming to allude to? Are there specifics in that? Like, I think the fact check, as we're seeing it play out now with a bunch of opposition research from anonymous people on Twitter and Discord and TikTok and old clips surfacing on both sides, like, I still don't think much of that stuff is going to touch what we think of Kendrick right now, in part because he had such a resounding musical victory, but also potentially a moral one in terms of how we consider their personas. But I think you still see the people who aren't letting this go wanting to triple down on Drake, not just losing a rap beef, but being
yes, but I do think this
a deadbeat or
but this
an abuser.
is the 20
or,
versus 1 thing back again. And actually, I said this, I think, in the first conversation that we had about this entire l'affaire, but I think Kendrick has far further to fall from a moral perspective. Should there be fact-checking in that direction? And should there be anything underneath the allegation of him being violent to his fiance or his former fiance, which is unclear at the moment, I think. But to me, Drake's celebrity has always had some percentage of this guy's a little off built in, but Kendrick's celebrity has not had any percentage, except the part where he shows up and says, please don't put me on a pedestal. But other than that, everybody persists in doing that, which is why he has to keep saying it. I think he has further to fall, should there be actual fact-checking that is damaging to him moving forward.
But you're seeing on that side, too, people saying, oh, I fed Drake that information. He paid me this. Like, there's so many tertiary characters now. There's so many Z plots going on in this that I think ultimately, short of incontrovertible video or deeply reported evidence, like I think this is just going to be a war mostly of misinformation
And also pre-existing bias.
Sure.
The 20 versus 1 is, as you said previously, this is not so much about stand-up, this is about hate and pre-existing hate and people finally having a bucket to put that hate into.
To put a bunch of a decade plus of miscellaneous Drake hate now can all go into one place and has an anthem.
Yes. Well, and multiple anthems, actually. And this is,
that's the other thing, the memes, memes that continue to come out of this.
And also,
with Drake at the center of it.
I am old enough to remember when the memes were in Drake's favor.
This is what
I'm literally. How old am I? I'm old enough to remember when the memes were in. I was at OVO Fest in Toronto the year of the Drake Meek Mill beef. I saw him put the memes on the screen in real time. I remember texting people about it, taking photos, taking videos. Saw it happen. I was like, this guy is a genius. He absolutely is weaponizing the language of internet drama, comedy, joke making, and bring it into the world of hip hop beef. And everybody online immediately understands he's fluent in the format and he's using it as he's taking out the opposition, not with a song, although there were songs as well, but he's taking out the opposition with jokes and laughs. It actually reminded me quite a bit of the mixtape covers in the 50 Cent, the G Unit, the Ross beef, all that old G Unit beef, where they'd have mixtape covers with people, cartoon versions of people in compromising positions and so on and so forth.
1.0 MS Paint Photoshop.
Very much so.
Pre-AI.
Some poor kid hunched over Photoshop or whatever, just moving things around. To me, Drake losing control of the meme narrative and losing control of the social narrative is actually as damaging as any song and any allegation.
And maybe more so. He gave people the tools that are now being used to tear him down. And I think it's also telling that he's posting through it. He's been posting memes this whole time.
Yes.
We haven't heard from Kendrick in weeks since the push-up video on the Finsta.
No, the way they're talking about Kendrick, it's he showed up one day, recorded 10 songs, and no one has spoken to him since. And he was just put them out when you want. I'm not even going to think about it. But Drake, obviously Not Like Us is potentially the song of the summer, but I also wonder if low-key BBL Drizzy is the song of the summer.
Yep.
And this is funny because the reason BBL Drizzy exists is because in the 1.0 of the beef, Drake is I'm not worried about you. I'm not worried. Metro, you're not even in this. Total tossed off line. Metro
made some drums.
And put it under, is it King Wallonius?
King Wallonius is the comedian who made the AI version of the song that's sampled in the Metro beat.
Right, that's what I mean. Yes, right. So then Metro found that, or that was already circulating, and basically put drums on it, and put out a minute or a minute and a half instrumental and said, have at it. So he crowdsourced Drake disses. And dances and short clips and cartoons. And then there's the merengue, El BBL, Sammy Andaluz, which has a number of dance videos on TikTok. Everybody got in on the party. It's, Drake is eliminated party on such so and so is over party on Twitter.
Wasn't that Taylor and Kim?
Was it Taylor and Kim?
2015.
Sure. Whatever it was, hashtag is over party. This is like Drake is eliminated party.
Yeah.
And everybody's going to town. And that's because Drake tossed off a line to Metro, and Metro said, okay, it's open season.
But I like that Metro had to do a meme to get back in on his own beef, on the beef that he orchestrated across 2 future mixtapes. Like when the BBL Drizzy challenge, he said basically, I'll give you a real beat to the person who does the best verse over this.
Yes.
Like when that first came out, I was like, this seems a little boardroom. Like everyone in Team Metro had to get together and be like, hey, we really got elbowed out of the conversation on this. How do we get back in? And here's what I'm going to say. I don't know if it would have worked so well if he wouldn't have done it in the style of a Drake beat. Doesn't it sound like a beat that Drake should rap
like sort
over?
of like a 40 style,
sample, and the
like
way
a
that
kind of like constrained, squelched soul sample,
and then it spreads out a little bit when the drums come in, and you can hear where the verse would go.
I can see that. That's like a mid 2010s Drake beat.
Yeah, and I mean, look, Metro made good Drake beats in the past. So it makes sense.
He might have had that in the files for all we know. That could have been sitting on a hard drive for 8 years.
Yeah, but then you have the vocal sample, which is reminding people over and over again that allegedly Drake has some form of cosmetic
enhancement.
Sure.
The thing that we were just talking about Drake's mastery of the meme ecosystem. I have seen Drake been on the receiving end of online hate, of online jokes. It's actually one of Drake's greatest gifts is taking an incoming joke and like either absorbing it into his personality or tweaking it just so and sending it back out in the world.
What's the old photo where he's wearing the really baggy clothes and he's dragging the Tim or in the back? He's like in a really weird pose.
It's I actually have
from a French Montana video.
Yeah, it's in Ross's house maybe. But then they
ironically,
and then they made not Drake, but someone made polo shirts, which I own. Yeah, I should have worn that today. One too. Yeah, do you have one?
I think so.
Oh my, we should have matched today. Yeah. But they made polo shirts. Yeah, it was a whole thing. Drake has always been incredibly savvy about taking. I mean, it's Eminem level, frankly, of taking opposition information or perspective on you and making it part of your personality. The sheer volume that's coming at him right now, I just don't think that that's a viable choice, which is why, whether it's him tapping out, whether it's Kendrick tapping out, whether it's Top Dog and Punch tapping out, whether it's Lucian Grange tapping out, Chubbs tapping out, like, I don't know. What I do know, and this is, I mean, it's worth saying, when you think about the music business, you have performers, you have management, you have record labels and other ancillary executives. There can be levels that are beyond that of people who are invested in rappers' careers and invested in musicians' careers. I assume that there were high-level conversations happening at all of those levels.
I wonder. See, there's been a lot of that sort of anonymous information, too. You see, Universal had an emergency meeting. To me, I think it's possible that artists at this level who control so much of their own destiny, Drake's been made clear in the past. He's like, I send my record in, when it's done, they put their name on it, they put it out. I wouldn't be surprised if most people involved in both of these guys' careers just took a step back and let
You
them
think
handle
Lucian
this.
hasn't talked to anyone on either side?
I don't think that CEOs really have a role here. And if anything, they're winning, right? Like we see the charts. So like you think there's long-term damage control going on?
Yes, I think that the potential, I mean, the question you asked earlier about the potential for additional ongoing Drake damage, that's like damaging to a stock. That's like information that you did not know about a company coming to light and people saying, well, should we short this?
But I don't think you can put that toothpaste back in the tube now. So, and I think, are the suits savvy enough to know that if there is career-ending information about Drake or Kendrick Lamar, it's coming out whether or not they say, hey guys, stop being mean to each other. I'll put it on the flip side. This is what I think. I think Lucian Grange at Universal Music, everybody in between, and Drake himself know that the only way to get this to stop is to make another hit.
Yes.
It's to go the Gunna route. It's like a hit record fixes everything. Post through it, except in this case, stop posting for a minute and come back with something undeniable. Whether it's in reference to this, whether it is Summer Vibes Only and it's Hold On, We're Going Home Part 2. Like, it doesn't matter what it is.
So that's, I think, the last thing we should talk about.
Just has to make everything else irrelevant.
So you're in the crisis room for both artists. What do you tell Kendrick to do? Or what do you recommend Kendrick to do? What do you recommend Drake to do?
I mean, Kendrick, I would say if you're Kendrick, just keep recording. Like, you're on fire. Like, whatever you want to do, finish the album, put it out. Doesn't have to be about Drake. You vanquished that
pop album.
It doesn't matter. It's a pop album no matter what, if it comes out anytime soon. If you're Drake, I don't know. Are you rapping or are you singing?
Rapping.
You're rapping?
This is my answer to the question.
And you think don't let it go. It's Blueprint 2. It's all I might have lost, but I'm still the best.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. If Drake does do Summer Vibes Only, Hold On, We're Going Home Part 2,
Controlla,
an Afrobeats record, and I'm a Piano record, something like that. People, those of us who are invested, the people who are watching closely, who are following closely, watching Twitter and YouTube and TikTok and so on and so forth, will know that something is missing, number one, and will forever be in a state of anticipation. You have left the hungriest, thirstiest, most knowledge-curious fans out in the lurch. I don't think Drake wants to do that. I think if Drake does that, what he's essentially saying is, I'm ceding this territory.
Rap, basically.
Yes, I'm willing to let this go. And I'm just going to become, I don't know, like a Will Smith-esque artist, I don't think that that's really what Drake is wanting to do. I also don't think that's the actual artist that he is. But I think at this particular moment in his career, if that's what he chooses to do, it might start to foreclose on some options for him if he ever wants to go back to the old well. So when I say post through it, I think he's going to rap through it.
What if it's both? What if it's melodic Drake, but it's topically?
I mean, I can only dream of that. What a blessing. And as for Kendrick, I mean, I think you're right that anything that Kendrick does right now will be quote unquote pop. Also, it's like I saw there was like some pushback online about Kendrick as hitmaker. I mean, Kendrick is not like a hitmaker in the sense that Drake is a hitmaker, but obviously Kendrick's very popular. Whatever he puts out is going to do well. I wouldn't be surprised if he wants to put some salt in the wound and 2 or 3 big summer records. Maybe they're about Drake, maybe they're not. Maybe they're pointedly not about Drake, just to prove that it doesn't need to be about Drake in order to have that level of impact.
Yep.
That's how I think it would go.
Or for both of them, what really would keep the conversation going along the lines of the cottage industries and the, satellite economies we're talking about is songs that may or may not be about one another. And that just gives people more and more to talk about.
Years and years. Should we go out with something from Blueprint 2?
Yeah.
Man. Talk about a record I haven't thought about in a long time. And not, frankly, candidly, not a successful Jay-Z record.
Oh, it's so good.
No.
Come on.
I don't know about all that.
Come
all
on.
Then you pick a song from
It'll
Blueprint.
play the intro.
Just the intro?
Yeah.
Had a dream, said, about who he said, about Big I said, that's Big he said, dig what he said, proceed he said, indeed I said, so breathe I dare, don't repeat what I say, I said, he said nothing, he agreed with his head, he just nodded like this, what I believe to be a yes, I repeated what was said, it came to me like a whisper, last evening I said,